perfection is not a standard by which you should be comparing yourself. It's not very healthy. But constant self-improvement means that not only do you get healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but because of that healthiness, you're also a better part of society, What's up, you guys, and welcome to Adulting with Joyce Pring, the how-tos of your 20s told by a 20-something-year-old traversing through adult life expectantly and with gusto. Don't forget to check out joycepring.com for the show notes and use the hashtag Adulting with Joyce Pring for all your comments, suggestions, and hopefully non-violent reactions.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of SOS. I don't know why I sounded like that. Welcome to the show.
What, you sound like an old school wizard.
I know. Expelliarmus! Or something. I don't know the other. Expecto Patronum! No?
Yes.
That was one, right?
I have no idea. Did you know I haven't read one Harry Potter book?
What?
You know why? Yeah, because when I was younger, we weren't allowed to read Harry Potter books. Because when it came out, I was probably in grade 3, maybe the first few books, and I was studying in a Christian school, and they didn't allow for kids to read Harry Potter books because of witchcraft. So that's a fun fact.
What?
Right? Isn't that crazy?
Oh my god, are you serious?
I'm serious. I've never read any of it. Yeah. So like when people are celebrating Harry Potter and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Harry Potter changed my life. It's the best." I can't relate. And
But
then
you
I
saw
went
the movies,
to
right?
I saw some of the movies because like I couldn't understand also, and I feel like that idea that witchcraft is really bad was ingrained in my heart. So even when I was older now, I that's why, diba? You see, I've never watched Harry Potter. I've never read Harry Potter. I never watched Game of Thrones. I never watched The Witcher. I couldn't even get myself to watch Blair Witch Project.
But you're reading The Hobbit.
And yes, but that's more of, it's kind of like an allegory, because it's Tolkien. And Tolkien's anyway, but that's for another conversation.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Wow,
Right?
Okay, welcome to the show. That is the weird story of the day, courtesy of Joyce Spring. I'm Aaron Atide. This is SOS and Adulting with Joyce Spring. Thank you guys for joining us today. We have a very interesting show for you guys, as we're not only answering one, we're not only answering 2, but we're going to be answering 3 different questions today on the show so that we can show as much love to as many people as possible here on SOS. So, you want to jump straight into it?
Yeah, we can. We have so many questions in the voicemail. So we're really happy that you guys are sending in your questions. Before you send in your questions, please do look at the previous episodes that we've done already, because maybe your question is something that we've already answered, one of the topics that we already have in the previous episode. So we might not be able to feature the one that you send us through voice message. But in these 3 questions that we have, I really like them, and I'm so excited to answer and discuss them, parts. So go.
So let's start us out. Our first question of the show today is courtesy of Eunice, and here it is.
Hi, Aaron and Joyce. I'm Eunice and I'm from Pasig. And my question would be, what if no amount of music, movies, series, books, and work can occupy you during this quarantine? How do you cope up? Thanks.
Okay, so Eunice's question, very simple. With everything that you can do in your house, and in the time now that you can't leave your house, what are you supposed to do? If it's not enough, because we're going to find out in just a little bit, maybe by the end of the day, as of recording, if the ECQ is going to be extended a little bit longer. What are we going to do if this goes another month and you've finished all your shows and you've finished all your books? Has that crossed your mind yet, Joyce?
Yeah, this is actually a really good question because a lot of people probably feel the same way, right? Like last night, my husband and I were trying to watch a movie over dinner and we were browsing through Netflix and we were like, my gosh, did we finally finish all the shows and movies that we had an interest in and now we can't find anything else to watch? And so I think for me, when I heard this question from Eunice, my answer in my head was like, if you consumed all the content that you can find in books, movies, series, and everything else, I think it's time for you to create substantial content too.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. So
Diba?
if you can't find any more of the content that you're looking for, make the content that you're looking for. That's what you're trying to like go
Right?
at. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, with adulting with Joyce Pring, one of the first few ideas and reasons that I had for creating the podcast was because I couldn't find a podcast that was specifically made for 20 somethings who are trying to figure out adult life.
Mhm.
Like there would always be podcasts about lifestyle and health and entrepreneurship, but yung just basically talking about the
Being.
things that right, being like what are like faith and relationships and dealing with anger issues and all these other things. I couldn't find that, so I started creating content. And you have to think about it this way: you don't have to necessarily be a vlogger, a blogger, a podcaster, or anything like that, but you could actually think of new businesses to do, right? Like what is something that you can't get now that you feel like you could probably help other people get. So I think that's it for me. How about you, Parts?
I guess mine is gonna be no matter how much that we're looking at this as being very distant from other people. I think that if you because the way that I see it is consuming TV shows, listening to music, reading books is a very individual type of and working, working from home, which a lot of people are doing. It's a very individual type of task. Whether you're cooking or anything like it, you're doing it on your own. Maybe it might be time. I don't know. I'm thinking about it from myself, from my own like experience. Maybe it might be time to like meet people. I don't know how we're supposed to do that. I don't know how we're supposed to meet people. Maybe
No, but I like what you're saying. Kasi parang, maybe you're done with the individual things that you can do. Maybe it's time to start reaching out to your friends. Like
yes,
arrange a wine night or like a game night, a workout or whatever over Zoom, right?
yeah.
Or start doing things with your family, start contacting them. Start arranging a weekly book club over Instagram, right?
And another thing that I think actually it was one of my friends that was telling me about it that she started doing was she started journaling.
Mm.
She would what she would it started out it was like a dream journal. Is that a thing? That's a
Hmm.
thing, right? Where you
Yeah.
write like right when
Yeah.
you wake up,
Write down
you
what
write
you
down
dreamt about. Yeah.
exactly. So and then it turned into like midday just free writing, writing just thinking whatever was coming into her mind. She would just jot it
Hmm.
down and put it onto a piece of paper. But yeah, I think that might be something that you might want to look into because despite all the content and everything that could be around you, um, if you have figured out everything around you, if you've watched everything that you wanted to around you, maybe it might be time to entertain what's inside you. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Like try and
Yeah.
maybe understand your thoughts. Maybe try and
Hmm.
think back at why or if you had an idea, try and flesh that out. Who
Yeah.
knows? You might stumble upon something so magnificent or something so minuscule, but at the same time, it'll make you so entertained with things that are happening in your mind. And I guess that's where I'm at, where I'm starting to think back at different ideas that I had. I went back into my idea journal and started looking at that and trying to see what things
Hmm.
I could do. So that might be something that you might want to look into if you're finally for because I know I'm nearing it also. When you see the credits of Netflix, when you finished everything and they're just like, okay, now what? It's a black abyss. What's gonna
Yeah.
happen now?
One of the going back to journaling that you mentioned earlier, and going back to your idea journal, one of the things that I read at the beginning of the ECQ was a person that tweeted, "I think it would be great to start journaling the things that you're going through right now, because when this all ends, it'll be fascinating to read about the the weird or banal days that you had just being stuck at home and what was going through your head. And that's precisely why I've always loved journaling, because you kind of have a time capsule to who you were a couple of months, weeks, or years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I like also what you said, Ganina, that if you've finished all these things, it's outside of who you are and outside of your body. Maybe it's time to start looking at an insider perspective. Like, what are the things in your inside that needs to be brought out? That means ideas, experiences, hurts, and joys, and all of these other things. And also, like, I feel like the things that we consume, whether that's our music, our movies, our books, they're always within the category of the things that we like.
Yes.
So why don't you try and expand your horizons by trying things out that aren't necessarily your preference, but maybe it was suggested by a friend of yours. Maybe your mom used to love baking, but you never tried baking. Maybe your mom loved, reading dystopian fiction, but you never got into
What is
dystopian
dystopian
fiction.
fiction?
Dystopian fiction is basically like the premise of the book is that it's in a dilapidated world. So,
So technically our
example would
world
be-
now.
Yes, pretty much. Ready Player One.
Yes.
Parang
Oh,
ganon.
okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah, I love that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, right? Because when you consume things, it's always within the realm of your likes and your comfort zone. So now that you're saying to us that you've consumed everything that you want and are interested in, try something out that wouldn't usually interest you.
Nice. Yeah. It's kind of like, because I always had this mustard theory.
What's that?
Okay. So, when I was growing up, and I know a lot of people are the same way, and it's kind of like the mustard / wine / beer theory. When you were growing up, the first time you tried it, you were like, what is this? This tastes so bad. This is so horribly bad. And there are people that had that inclination towards mustard their entire lives because they had it at so young, and they were kind of like, it's just really not my thing. I don't like it, and because of that, I'm old. I'm much older now, but I still just like, parang hindi ko talaga gusto eh. But who knows? Now, if you try something that you might have not liked before, you might actually like it. Now, mustard is my favorite condiment in the world. Like, I love mustard more than anything in the world. That is another topic for conversation on another show. But think of that there might be something that you didn't like before. And now is your opportunity to try if you still hate it, or who knows, you might be a fan of it now.
And last but not the least, after trying things that you probably never liked but could like in the future, maybe you could start thinking about how you can help your community.
Yeah.
Now that we all have time, there are different ways for you to help your community. There are groups, there are prayer groups where you could actually pray for frontliners. There are people within your circles who are probably struggling more than you are, so you could reach out to them. Set a date every week, just have coffee over a video call and make sure that they're okay. You share your feelings, you share your experiences. What are you struggling with? What are you celebrating that week? Or you can go to worldvision.org.ph and, start sponsoring a child for only 750 pesos a month. You get the chance to change the child's life and bring together and build sustainable communities for Filipino families in need.
Boom! That is how you do it. Oh my God. That was insanely good. So I guess our main takeaway here is if you finish all the content that you usually like, it might be because you're stuck in things that you usually like. So try and get out of your comfort zone now and see where that takes you. If you finished everything from there and we're still in this quarantine, my God. Then we'll try and figure something else out when that time comes, okay? Okay.
Thank you, Eunice, for that awesome
Eunice.
question.
Let's go to question number 2 right now. And she doesn't have a name, so let's check that out.
Hi, Aaron and Joyce. I won't say my name, but here are my questions for both of you. How do you build your self-confidence, and what do you usually do to improve your confidence?
Okay. Thank you to she won't say her name. So self-confidence is a very, very interesting topic because despite what a lot of people might think, me and Joyce have very, very low self-confidence. And I think that a lot of people in our industry are kind of the same way. We just kind of, I don't know, like for me, I've always faked it. Like I've always faked self-confidence for so long, and even until today, and I think I will for a long time. But for you, Joyce, as somebody that has been, self-confidence is something that a lot of people would look at as somebody that has done so much at such a young age and all the way until now. How have you been able to both boost and keep up self-confidence in times that you need it?
That's a really good question. Going back to your first comment where both you and I have struggles with self-confidence, I love what Billie Eilish in one of her I think carpool karaoke's with James Corden, she said that people don't understand that, artists were all insecure. This is why we do the thing that we do, because we constantly need that affirmation from people that we're creating something that's substantial, something that people value. And we just put this front that we're cool and we're confident, but we actually struggle with it,
Yes.
right? Like we all struggle with it. It's a bunch of people who are just very good at faking it, and that's why sila Beyonce's have their Sasha Fierces and their other, they have these personas that they need to step into to kind of get in that mindset of confidence. Now, for me, I feel like confidence is something that's constantly eluding me. It's very evasive in my life. um and I think the number one thing, first and foremost, I'm confident. I became really confident when I realized that, and I kind of understood that God created and formed me, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And funny enough, Wancha and I were just talking about this last night, and he said na when he was younger, he was bullied a lot. And it was because he would always be the odd kid in the group. When they were in San Diego, when he was growing up, he was the only Asian guy. And then from San Diego, they came to Cebu, and he was the only non-Bisaya person. So parang his entire childhood, he was just always bullied. And he gave me this verse that I had to look up. It's Psalm 139, verse 13. You formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. And that just talks about how uniquely made every person is according to the Bible. And one just said that I wish I had a pastor or someone who told me before that God formed my inward parts, that he knitted me together in my mother's womb, because maybe then I wouldn't be so self-conscious and not confident when I was younger. And so I feel like that was the beginning of actual self confidence for me. Because before that, it was always just a facade after another. Like, my facade came from I was the cool band girl who was just doing gigs night and day. I was just like smoking, drinking, hanging out with the boys. I could drink people to the under the table.
Yes.
It's crazy, right? And then after that, I switched into, see, I'm the only girl who can race and drive fast cars. Like, it would always be one facade after another that I would hide behind. Um, and so it was only then when I really found God, and God really found me, that I understood my value, my intrinsic value. And then I found the confidence. But everything else, I think, is like a physiological, mental training that you have to do. And you and I know this parts, right? Like, you have to constantly work on yourself, work on who you are. You have to keep yourself educated, and that confidence can't be dependent on other people, because there will always be people who don't believe in you, who don't trust you, who don't think that you're great. But if you know to yourself that, honest to God, I'm taking care of myself, I am making myself better than I was yesterday, then that's where you find your confidence.
I absolutely agree, and I guess I can kind of relate to Wancho, because when I was growing up in LA, it was the same way. I had a last name that nobody could pronounce. No, I mean, I'm in the middle of Glendale, California, and they're like,
What was the funniest pronunciation?
like roll call. I'm 6 years old, right? Calling Aaron Atadi, Atade, Atade.
Atade!
Aaron Atade. Is Aaron Atade here? And I'm just like, sitting there with my mungo in my little lunchbox. Don't know how to say
Yung
my name.
stainless steel na lunchbox
In
mo,
the middle
na
of the
tatlong
stage.
layers.
And so, I mean, because of that, I always got picked on. And then when I moved here, when I was, I started school in the Philippines, I was in the third grade, I didn't know how to speak Tagalog. And until now, I still have a hard time speaking Tagalog. So people would pick on me then. They'd be like, oh, siya tayo din, di marunong mag-Tagalog. Oh. So, and I went to an all-boys school. So it's like, 400 kids picking on, each other. So I had to toughen up. And when I got to college, until this day, I still think that I get, we all get bullied. And, I would like to think that I've been able to carry myself well enough to be able to put up somewhat of a fighting chance with it. Obviously, bullying and self-confidence and all of that is the deep root of it all is your anxiety, and I think that's one of the initial forms of anxiety in someone. And it's funny because if you think about it, if you're a little kid and you're making fun of someone, it feels like it's not going to mean anything, but 34 years later, here we are. And it's still like the anxiety will always be there. I think that the one thing that I learned about handling my self-confidence was that when I was younger and I was getting bullied a lot, and I took so much offense to it. I felt like it was like personally attacking me, when it probably was, but I gave it a little too much weight in my life, and it was only recently, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago in my life, where I really sat down with myself and I said that I'm not going to allow it anymore. That I'm better than what I think people think I am. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
I get what you mean.
I need to love myself for who I know I am, and not for who I think others think I am. So it was just all like in my head and stuff like that. So the self-confidence really became more of, instead of looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you're an amazing person, you're going to do this, Aaron, you got this, it was more of, no, you've always had this. You've always been a great person. It's not, now does not change anything from what it was before. And I'm a better person. And I've said it before on the show, I need to go to bed every night and say that the moment that I go to sleep, I'm a better person than the person I was when I woke up. And I think that is something that we always wanted to talk about here on SOS and Adulting with Joyce Pring. It's about wellness. It's about, that is how we helped ourselves appreciate each other and appreciate ourselves and give ourselves self-confidence, was by making ourselves better. If we knew that our anxiety was getting very, very heavy, we found ways to make ourselves so much better, whether it was, going to the gym or taking yoga, meditation, going to your D group, finding ways to make yourself better through wellness of not just the body, not just the mind, but also the spirit. That is how you help your self-confidence little by little get better and better each day.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. Jordan B. Peterson says, never compare yourself with anyone but the person you were yesterday. I think that's such a profound and simple thing to always remember, right? To stop comparing yourself to others. And I also like what Aaron was saying, that, it's not about faking the confidence when you're standing in front of the mirror, but really being honest with yourself, right? And acknowledging that, hey, these are my weaknesses. These are the things that I'm not, very confident at. These may be the things that I'm not very strong at. But then there are also the beautiful, good parts of me that are strong. And in that, I take confidence. And I feel like more than anything, for anybody to really gain confidence, it's accepting that perfection is not a thing that you can find in this world. And that is just something that you can't put upon yourself. Perfection is not a standard by which you should be comparing yourself. It's not very healthy, but constant self-improvement means that not only do you get healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but because of that healthiness, you're also a better part of society, right?
Yes.
You can also be a better part of your community. You can help others more. You can love others better if you're confident in yourself. And that's why it's important.
Yes. It was funny because I was in my yoga class a while ago, and the teacher at the time said, if you fall, don't worry. That's normal. That's why we practice. If you don't
Oh.
fall, that means that you don't have to do it anymore. But that because you
Mm-hmm.
fall, because you have faults with your self confidence, that is why you practice getting better at your self confidence. It will always happen. Don't hate yourself because you lack self confidence. Practice more accepting your self confidence, because that is how you get better at it.
Precisely. Really, really good. And, simple steps also. It's like you could eat better.
Yeah.
Better nutrition leads to nicer skin, a healthier body. You could work out and really focus on how you can feed your body and how you could actually exercise, right? You can do all of these things, especially now that we're in ECQ. We have all the time in the world, or at least we have more chances of actually doing our workouts, eating better without the usual hurdles of ang sarap pa kumain sa labas at maglamyerda with my
La
friends. No, you can't
mierda!
do that. Lamierda with your friends. But hey, speaking of that, thank you again to our anonymous sender
Yes.
of this question about self-confidence. I think what Aaron and Tyler and I were talking about, in a nutshell, is self-improvement leads to self-confidence. And Aaron and myself are really huge advocates of self-improvement, and that's precisely why we also partnered with a brand that believes in that. So we're
Yes.
working with locally parts.
Yes. So both me and Joyce, individually, we didn't even know that we were going to be doing this together. Our friends over at Locally have, I think it's going to be over 2 weeks, where they're going to have a couple workshops. It's all going to be over Instagram Live, and I believe yours is tomorrow, and
Yes.
yours is going to be like a flyweight class, right?
It's gonna be a flyweight boxing class with Vince.
Oh my
So
god,
it's
that's awesome!
yeah, I was telling them yesterday that I'm really excited because I haven't done boxing in a while, and I also haven't worked out in a while. And this is precisely why I wanted to kind of interject this on the podcast, because I want to encourage people that if in the past 3 or 4 weeks you've been struggling to actually get up from your bed or from your desk and work out, don't ever be afraid to start. I think it just starts with one flyweight class, and then
Yes.
it continues on. It takes one healthy meal, one healthy or nutritious drink, one healthy choice that eventually leads to a lifestyle. That's you compound that, right? And so from my flyweight class tomorrow with Vince, where you'll see me probably die,
I'm gonna
I
be so
think.
excited to watch this. I'm gonna be so excited.
He was laughing, or we were talking about this yesterday, or I was talking to Vince, and he was like, I know you, I know this is going to be a fun class. So apart from that, you're going to be doing something to exercise the mind naman.
Yes, I'm going to be having a quiz night with the one and only Rami Bitong, a good friend of ours, where we're just going to be asking some questions. We got some prizes to give away. But see, that's what we're talking about. It's about holistic wellness. So, if you get your nice sweat with Joyce, you'll get a nice mind exercise with me. For some strange reason, they think I'm smart. So that
I think this is the proof that Aaron is really the smarter one
they
in
think I'm
this
smart.
duo.
So yeah, I mean that's what we always talk about here on SOS. So we'll see you guys there. Do you have one? Can I have a can? Do you have a can there?
Oh yeah, I have a drink here from locally.
Oh,
Here you
can
go.
I-
You want the drink
yeah,
parts?
Yeah, yes, please. Oh,
Here. There you go.
oh, look at that. Oh,
Wow.
Dinalandan mo sa akin, ah.
Wow. So locally is actually the first quirky Filipino juice line made with uniquely indigenous local flavors. I've tried their guyabano, their dalandan, their mango, super sarap. And we'll see you guys in our respective live IGTVs with them in the next few days as we move on now to the next question here for SOS.
Our final question of the afternoon, or whenever it is that you're listening to this, is this question.
Hey, Joyce and Aaron, it's Jan from Pampanga, and here's my question for you. Any tips on forgiving yourself and moving on from your mistake? Yeah, that's all. I love you guys. Bye.
We love you too, Jan. Forgiving yourself. Parts?
Jan, pag may sumagot na nung tanong mo, send mo sa amin.
Kasi there are a lot of things that I can't say that I have not forgiven myself for. Are there
Yeah.
what's the biggest thing that you have forgiven yourself for, though?
Oh my gosh. I can't. It's a compilation. The biggest things I probably can't tell you, but
Yeah. I probably already know, but we can't say.
we can't share to the public. But I think when I became a Christian, it was just more difficult to deal with the bad habits that I used to have, and then that kept recurring when I became a Christian. Like I talked about this extensively in my testimony, and I said that it was still hard for me. Like I would still have rage fits. Like I'd still get super angry. Like I throw things around. I throw a tantrum, and I would still. I used to still drink excessively. Those things that what?
Throw things? You would throw things?
Throw
What?
right? I know. Anger management issues talaga. As in, talaga before, like those are the things that I really had a hard time forgiving myself for. But I realized that if the God of the universe, who loves me and created me and sustains me, has forgiven me, then I must also. It is my moral duty to forgive myself. And I feel like that was my eureka moment. And here's the thing. The moment you forgive yourself for the things that you hate about yourself, that's the moment when you actually start letting go of those things.
Nice.
Because you're no longer walking on eggshells trying not to make a mistake. And the more you think about not making that mistake and not making that bad decision, for some reason, you always end up doing it, right? So the moment that you actually allow yourself to be forgiven, and the moment that you actually forgive yourself, then you stop thinking about staying in this tiny shell of, I need to keep doing this so that I'm good and I'm moral and I'm not making a mistake so that I won't be angry at myself,
I have a very different, I guess, angle when it comes to forgiving myself. I think I've forgiven myself for a lot of the bigger things in my life. I think I've forgiven myself for a lot of the mistakes that I've done that I know I have learned from. And I think that's where the forgiveness comes from. If you have not forgiven yourself for something you have done, that means that you're still willing to repeat it. And that means that you have not learned from those mistakes. I have a harder time forgiving myself for the little things. Like for things that I might have said, or like a couple times that I might have acted like an idiot and gotten myself in a peculiar situation that might have ruined a potential relationship with somebody, and I'm like, no, Aaron, what did you do? Why did you say that? And it would play back in my head until this day, and I'm washing the dishes, and I'm like, man, I'm a moron. Like, I swear, those are the ones that I have a harder time forgetting and forgiving. Because I guess the way that I see it is that, I'll never know. I'll never know what's going to happen. Like, I would have never known what would have happened if I didn't say something stupid. Okay, here we go. To put it perfectly, the way that I look at it is, if it's something big that I have done, if the person has forgiven me that I have wronged, then I have forgiven myself as well. Because I have made full amends with it. Now, for everything else, it's John Mayer's My Stupid Mouth. And that is it. Like, that is how I look at my life.
That makes a lot of sense.
My stupid
Yeah,
mouth
that
has
makes a lot of
got me
sense.
in trouble. I had too much again. I said too much again. That is it. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I love also what you said, Parts. I think for you to be able to forgive yourself, you also have to ask for forgiveness.
Yes.
If there were people that you wronged and you have the opportunity to actually ask for forgiveness and make amends, as Aaron said, that will actually help you. Sometimes it actually helps you more than them when you ask for forgiveness. That's one thing that you have to remember. And another thing that Aaron touched on, I think without even thinking about it, is with the big mistakes in your life, you have to realize that you are not defined by those mistakes. You are defined by the choices of your life, but the mistakes that you have is just it's really just a show of how human you are. And that's where humanity lies, really, like that we're constantly making mistakes, we're constantly making bad decisions. And once you stop expecting yourself to be perfect and to always make good decisions and the right choices, then you'll thoroughly understand and start forgiving yourself.
That's why she has a podcast, and that's why she does this, because she's really good at this kind of stuff. I didn't even know that that's what I meant. But then again,
No, but
I
it's
meant
true.
it. It really is true.
Diba?
It
You
really
meant
is
it.
true. That was what I was
Yeah.
trying to say. And that's why it's funny when they thought that I was the smart one. It's
No, I think they know that you're the more patient one. So you're doing the game night. I'd be going like, no, guys, the answer is B. Ano ba?
Ano ba? Guys. So there you go. Thank you to Jan, to Eunice, and to the one that didn't share her name. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. If you guys heard, one of your friends ask a good question or wants to ask a question, or you have one, please make sure you head on over to joycepring.com and ask your question over there.
That's right. And hey, if you don't want to send a voice message, we thoroughly understand.
Yes.
But did you know that Shot of Sanity already has a private Facebook group that you can join?
Yeah, I saw that.
Wow.
I saw that.
Erin Aida and I are in that group.
We're the
and
only
in that
two
group
members.
we get to do we're the only two members. But hopefully after this episode they'll start following and joining that group. In that group we'll be sharing with you our own insights. We'd love to get to know you guys. We'd love to start discussions. We see the show notes that you share on Instagram and we feel like we don't want it to just disappear after 24
Yeah.
hours. We'd want to see it and look back at it a few months or years down the road. So please do join the group. Let's start conversations and let's just start to get to know each other. Erin and I are thinking that, maybe after the ECQ, if all of these things let up, then eventually maybe one day we can do a live version of SOS and meet everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there are any thoughts that you guys have on each episode that you want to put out and discuss it with other people, make friends. Let's all have a brand new community. If we can't have one outside, let's have one online. And let's all, have a nice little virtual hug with each other and share some great opportunities with great ideas. So there you go. That wraps up this episode
That's
of
right.
SOS. She's Joyce
That's
Pring,
it.
and I'm Aaron. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Paalam!
And that's it for this episode. If you'd like to continue the conversation, go to www.joycepring.com. And if you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/adultingwithjoycepring. I'll talk to you guys soon. Paalam!